So, Brian, you're a busy guy. I saw yesterday that you were sitting in the legislature and then you were here last night. What brings you to the convention, the Conservative Party convention?
Well, because I'm a Conservative, obviously. I'm very excited to be here. I was 10 years as a Conservative member of Parliament in Ottawa. I was very excited to work under Stephen Harper and the great people within the Conservative caucus right now. Many of those people I worked with and are good friends of mine. And of course, I was a Conservative for many years before that as well, but now I'm a Wild Rose Conservative. I'm very excited about being the leader of the official opposition and the Wild Rose Conservative caucus in Alberta.
Which brings me to another question. Right down there is the Alberta Prosperity Fund. And so they're a Unite the Right initiative in Alberta. What role, if any, do you think the federal party has in having gone through this process before of uniting? Do you think that there's a role for them in uniting Conservatives in Alberta?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure if they actually want to unite the parties. My understanding is they want to start a new party. In fact, they've suggested that a new party is the way, and I don't see how going and having a goal of one party and starting with two and adding a third one actually works out to get that goal of one. So I don't think that's really helpful. I think truly that I'm a servant of the people, I'm a servant of the members, I'm a servant of Albertans, and I want my members to have member-to-member conversations with the PCs and activists to activists, local presidents, local board of directors, and have them have the conversation between themselves, Wild Rose and PCs. And if they want to get together, then it's my job to facilitate that, and that's what I'm going to do. But let's be clear. We have been, the PC party has been very, very clear as well, their AGM, that they're not interested in doing this. We will continue to have our arms open and try to consolidate Conservatives right across Alberta because we think that's very important, and we will win their hearts and minds because we know through good leadership and through good policy and making sure that we keep Albertans as number one in our minds and our hearts, that we will win in the next election. And we want to be able to serve Albertans in a better way, a more prosperous future, and that means it has to be with a Wild Rose Conservative government.
Now, I heard that you got a new pin tonight.
I did.
In there.
What an honor to get it back.
Explain to me about your pin.
Well, this is a pin that you receive when you first get elected as a member of Parliament, and it's this little pin, and it may not seem like a lot, and it's kind of confusing, and when you first see it, it might not seem like a lot, but for me it's a great honor because I had this pin when I first got elected, and I wore it, of course, to get into the House of Commons. I'm allowed to do that, and they can't actually stop me, believe it or not. As a servant of the people, I have the right to go in there whenever I want, and I think that's a great honor, but the truth is I lost everything in the fire, and today it was a complete surprise when my friend Blaine Calkins and, of course, Ron Ambrose came forward and said, listen, Brian, here it is, you lost it in the fire, but we're a family, and you can have your pin back, and it was just such a great honor. It gives me shivers to think about it because I thought it was gone forever, so it sure was.
Now, speaking of the fires, we're working towards Reentry June 1st.
First, second, and third.
First, second, and third. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Well, I'm very excited about being able to get back to my home, as I'm sure all 80,000 plus residents of Northern Alberta are, but the truth is right now we're still worried. It's not truly safe. We have some concerns in relation to continual fires. I get everyday briefs on it, and it looks like there's still some smoldering fires in the area. I'm very concerned about that because of the safety of my residents, and of course safety has to be the most important issue going in and going forward. We'll wait and see what happens, but I'm leaving it up to the great personnel we have, the emergency responders that have not just saved our lives but saved property. We have over 1,000 in there right now that are still working to put out the fires, and I'm confident that they will have it ready and they will give us the okay to go ahead when they're ready. And that might be the first, it might be the second or third or fourth. I understand it's a tentative date, and I'm hopeful it's the first, but let's be clear. Safety has got to be the number one priority, and I'm hoping and I believe that the emergency personnel will not let us back in until it is safe.
Now, I noticed when you do other interviews, people ask you how you're doing, and you immediately deflect to the first responders. But really, how are you doing, and how is your family doing? Because I understand it wasn't just Brian Jean's house that burned. There were many Jean properties that went up.
Well, my family lost at least 5 homes, maybe 6. Definitely, we've been there a long time, so we're part of the core net of Fort McMurrayites, and we're very proud to be there. I love the community. I've been there 50 years, and I think it's the greatest place in the world. I've said that many times. I continue to say that. I'm really concerned about the people and the mental state of the people of Fort McMurray, having fled a fire that was, in fact, burning the front door as they ran out the back. The issues about driving through a firestorm of wood products falling all around them. I think it's very, very scary, and I think there's going to be a lot of long-term mental issues, that's what I'm concerned with right now. And as long as I continue to focus on the people as my number one priority, I think Brian Jean will be taken care of sooner or later, and that's all I care about. So truly, they are my family, they are my friends, the residents of Northern Alberta. I'm so proud to be their representative, and I'll continue to fight for them just like I fight for Albertans every single day, wherever I am.
Now, talking about Alberta, we have Bill 20 coming up with the carbon tax, and I know that Wildrose is fighting that as well as the provisions within there that strip property rights.
It's unbelievable. We see gong show after gong show from this NDP government. It doesn't matter what bill they bring forward. It seems to be that they just do not consult. They bring forward draconian legislation that frankly astonishes me. There was no question I'm totally opposed to the carbon tax. We would get rid of that carbon tax immediately. This NDP carbon tax is not good. It's just going to take $3 billion out of our pocketbooks. But why would they put in legislation to allow them to break into people's property? It just seems absolutely bizarre that they can go into people's property and they can find out, whether by seizing a computer or by looking at the books, what these people are doing, because my goodness gracious, they might be avoiding the carbon tax, which frankly I don't see how they can avoid in the first place, because the carbon tax is going to make fuel more expensive at the pump. It's going to make food more expensive, at least 5% increase in food transportation alone. It's going to make everything more expensive, because you know what? Everything involves petroleum one way or the other. Just about everything we use or get or receive involves petroleum, and if you throw petroleum prices up, you're throwing the cost of everything up, and that's what's going to happen.
What are you hearing from Conservatives on the floor? Have you been in any policy sessions?
I have just some policy conversations primarily, but I mean, there's obviously some things that are going on in relation to constitutional changes. What I'm glad to see is that there's a fulsome debate, because we need to, there is, and there has to be. I mean, people say, oh, they talked about this or they talked about that. Wouldn't you rather we talked about everything, that we had those full debates amongst families so we can discuss how we're going to go forward? Because you know what, we represent Albertans or Canadians, as the case may be, as Conservatives, and the Conservative Party of Canada did a great job for 10 years under the leadership of Stephen Harper. I was very proud to be a small part of that, and I think under the next leader we're going to have a very strong Conservative Party again, and we can only do that if we have good fulsome debates, if we include all Canadians no matter where they are, and bring them into the conversation, because we have to win their hearts and minds, and we have to be relevant on what's happening to them today in every part of their lives, and I think Conservatives will do that, and Canadians will pick us in the next elections. You know why? Because they won't have enough jobs. Because Justin Trudeau and Rachel Notley and Premier Wynne right across this country, no matter whether it's provincial governments or the federal government, when you get left-leaning Liberal or NDP policies, everybody suffers, and we need to see something different, and we're going to during the next elections.
Do you think that attitude of robust conversation between Conservatives can be carried forward into Alberta?
Well, I sure hope so, because we're having that conversation. I've challenged the members in November and again in December to have conversations, for instance, in uniting Conservatives, to consolidate Conservatives. And I've tried to bring Conservatives into the Wildrose Party. And as I mentioned before, the PC elites, the executive, have rebuffed us. They've said, no, we're not interested. We're going to go alone, notwithstanding that they're in the latest poll under 20%. I just don't understand why they would continue to sacrifice the best interest of Albertans for their own personal ambition. I don't think it helps. I believe we should consolidate Conservatives under one banner, and I believe that, based upon what they've done, is now the Wildrose banner. And I'm going to work very hard, as is my entire caucus, right across the province this summer. We're going to open our policy books, we're going to open our principles, and we're going to have them at the back of the room, have discussions at the front of the room, and invite people to come forward with better policies that broaden the approach of Wildrose members and the Conservative movement that we're currently leading in Alberta.
Great. Thank you so much for talking to me, Brian.
Always a pleasure, Sheila. All the best to all your listeners.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.